Oh, yeah, it has been a huge week in professional wrestling. Sasha Banks and Naomi have been suspended by the WWE. The Usos are the new undisputed tag team champions, and Stephanie McMahon is leaving. She's gone. Let's get Johnny in here. Let's break it all down. My goodness. Johnny. Goodness. I mean, good evening, first of all. How are you, buddy?
I'm well. Enjoying the nice weather we finally got. Finally feels like summer here.
Yeah. I mean, it has felt like summer here recently. It just kind of went back into feeling like spring. And now it's back to summer. And hopefully we're sticking to the summer. Although, what are we, mid-May? Almost end of May. Yeah, we're not quite out of the woods yet, John.
It's just nice to enjoy good weather because it's been a while. It feels like it was a very long winter.
Well, we're not here to talk about the weather, John. We are not meteorologists. We are pro wrestlingologists. We are here to talk about the great business of professional wrestling, and we have so much to talk about. I want to get back to doing more shows than once a week because this once a week thing to deal with everything in wrestling, it's just not enough. I'm going to have to do more shows. I think more shows are coming back to the Ringside Report Network soon. I took a brief hiatus. My daughter's now 6 weeks old today, so I think soon we'll be doing more shows pro wrestling-wise because we need it. I'm expecting to do a post-Dynamite show to really dive into AEW next week on the go-home show for AEW Double or Nothing. And then the plan is, after that, to go back to Wednesday nights right after Dynamite. So that is my plan for the Ringside Report Network. And everything else will fall in line, damn it. Everything else will figure itself out. That's the big plan. I'm looking forward to next week, AEW Double or Nothing week. There's a lot of AEW to talk about as well as the WWE. AEW has a huge episode of Dynamite set up for next Wednesday going into the show, into the pay-per-view. They're in Vegas. Hangman, CM Punk. It is the AEW Double or Nothing main event for the AEW World Championship. They're going to have an in-ring promo on Dynamite. We're going to have Samoa Joe against Kyle O'Reilly with the winner facing Adam Cole in the Owen Hart Cup. Britt Baker and Tony Storm in an Owen Hart Cup semifinal. Ruby Soho and Chris Statlander in the other one. There's a lot being added for Double or Nothing. Just tonight, the Young Bucks and the Hardys announced by AEW. Young Bucks versus the Hardys in a tag team match for the first time in AEW at Double or Nothing. Jade Cargill will defend the TNT title against Anna Jay at Double or Nothing. That was announced as well tonight. If you didn't catch Rampage, although I don't know if that Young Bucks match was announced on Rampage or it was announced just on Twitter. Either way, it's official. Bucks versus Hardys. Pretty good stuff going on in AEW. Sorry, go ahead.
Like the Bucks challenged the Hardys, and then they said it's official. Like they pretty much ran down the whole Double or Nothing card. So yeah, like it was made official then, and then yeah, they put it out there everywhere now. Everyone knows it, I guess.
Pretty big match. I mean, that's not bad just to throw out there as a late addition to the pay-per-view.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. Like they've been slowly building that, and it's the match I think people want to see the most in terms of like tag teams right now. Of all the tag matches you could possibly put together in AEW, that's probably the match to make. And thankfully they did it for the pay-per-view because obviously that's the match people want to see the most, I think.
It's a big one. It's a big one. We'll talk about AEW in a little bit. I want to start with the WWE because they just had a big episode of Smackdown. They're on fire right now. They have new tag team champions. And that, I think, is the big news, right? The unified tag team titles. The Usos beat RK Bro tonight in the middle of the ring to become the new WWE Undisputed Tag Team Champions. I did not think that this was going to happen. I was hopeful, but I wasn't sure. And I think a lot of people expected a non-finish tonight on SmackDown. And I'm pretty happy that the WWE actually gave us a finish, right? You didn't expect new champions crowned tonight on SmackDown, did you?
Well, it wasn't impossible. I mean, there was a chance, but if you're a betting person, you think, well, more than likely we're not going to get a finish on television. They'll drag this to the pay-per-view, which is only 2-3 weeks away. Like you would think that's what's probably going to happen, but no. And it's amazing too because it's usually one of these matches that they've dragged for so long. You have to wait a little bit longer because they always love to tease as much as possible. But no, finally just ended it. And I think it's for the best. We just finally need to get to this point where we finally have one set of tag champions.
This is where we need it to be. We've been saying it for years, right? The WWE just doesn't have a deep enough division on Raw or SmackDown to merit tag team titles on both shows. It makes sense to have unified tag team titles. This is something that I've been saying for years now on this show, and finally they get it done. Once they introduce the women's titles as well, it's like, okay, well, the women's titles can be defended on either show. It's an undisputed tag team title. Why can't the men's tag team titles be the same? And now finally, here tonight, we get to that point. It makes a lot of sense to have the Usos as the tag team champions. Ironic that on the same night that Jimmy Uso is awarded the undisputed WWE tag team title, his wife, Naomi Uso, is stripped of the women's undisputed WWE tag team title. It's kind of
probably done.
What do you mean done? Done?
Well, suspended indefinitely. That's never a good sign, and apparently the contract's going to be up soon.
They're talking about her on TV. That's never a bad sign.
Well, not a very positive light whatsoever. When it's like this graphic of match supposed to happen, and they let us all down. So it reminds me of the whole Stone Cold situation all over again.
Yeah, but they did all that to guilt Stone Cold into coming back. They didn't say, oh, well, we're just going to release Stone Cold.
And it worked, but I don't know with this, though. I mean, if 2 months from now, her contract's done, I don't think she's going to come back.
I'm not sure.
It took a while. It took a year for Austin to come back.
Yeah.
It took a long while.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with Sasha and Naomi. It's being handled very strangely by the WWE. It's a weird situation, and the way they're handling it is bizarre. It seems like a work the more they talk about it, but apparently it's real. The way Becky Lynch was talking about it on Raw, oh, well, they're gone, so now I shouldn't have to wrestle. I should just be awarded the #1 contender spot, and they left and whatever. They were just kind of treating it like another story in the WWE, except, well, they walked out and they gave up the belts. They've been treating it like a story. They gave an update tonight. Oh, Sasha and Naomi have been indefinitely suspended. Unprofessional conduct. They walked out on Raw. Everybody knows the story, and now we're stripping them of their tag team titles. And by the way, we're going to hold a tournament for new champions, which how many teams are going to be in that? How many teams do they actually have?
It's pretty the whole weak roster in a tournament, pretty much.
Yeah, the whole roster, right? You got Natty and Shayna, Doudrop and Nikki.
Carmella, Zelina.
Oh, is that still a thing?
Well, they can just make it a thing. It doesn't really matter. At this point, they just got to put things together. I mean, if you think about it, Dana and Tamina, I think they'd be actually a top favorite, in my opinion.
I don't know. Dana and Tamina, Carmella and Zelina. Where is Zelina? She's been gone for weeks now.
Well, I saw she was still posting on Twitter, so she's still around, just maybe not there for whatever reason. Not everyone gets showcased.
Okay.
We saw Xia Li, she's just backstage, but she never wrestles. But we saw her backstage.
Oh yeah, she was watching the Raquel Rodriguez Shotzi match tonight, right?
Right.
Uh-huh. That was weird. I don't know what the hell that is. I just want to stick with the Usos here for a second. Usos beat RK Bro in the main event tonight to become the undisputed tag team champions. They are they were the SmackDown champions. They're now the Raw champions as well. Roman Reigns, who's of course the undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Champion, he helped the Usos. He held onto his cousin's foot when he was on the top rope about to get suplexed off the top by Riddle. Riddle goes for the suplex, falls back without the Uso because Roman was helping him. Roman was able to do this because Heyman was on the other side of the ring distracting the ref. Riddle falls down because he can't get the suplex. Jey Uso, I think, finds himself on the top rope, does the big splash on Riddle. 1, 2, 3. Usos cheat to win, but they still win. They still get the job done, and they're the new tag team champions. You know, we didn't get a clean finish, but we got a 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, and we got new champions. And I think that's all we can really hope for here, right? Like, I don't really care that Roman cheated to win. He's supposed to cheat. They're heels. They're a heel faction. That's how they're supposed to get their big wins, with cheating. Even Roman helping them is a bit of a surprise, a bit of a departure from the Roman Reigns character who kind of tells his cousins to go out there and do the deed, and he sits backstage and watches in a huff, and, you know, if they do it, he's mad. If they don't do it, he's mad. But this time he helped. It's kind of nice to see Roman helping, you know, his cousins. Shows he cares. But this is good for the bloodline. You know, it really completes the look. Roman's got his 2 belts. Each Uso has 2 belts now. They did the pose in the ring to close SmackDown. They did a big beating on Riddle and Randy after the match. Roman choked out Riddle, draped him on the announce table. Jey Uso goes to the top rope, flies off the top rope to the outside through the announce table with a splash on Riddle. Incredible stuff. Incredible post-match beatdown. It was havoc. It was anger. It was violence from Roman Reigns and the Usos on Randy and Riddle. Taking them out, doing the pose. Like, winning the championship wasn't enough. They had to deliver a crazy beatdown with a huge spot after the match. And I'm for it. I loved it. I thought it was a great way to end SmackDown. We had a decent match with a finish that means a lot going forward for the company. And then you had a bonus beatdown with a crazy table spot with a top rope dive there by Jey Uso that was just incredible. I thought it was crazy. And then they pose. I mean, it's the Bloodline asserting their dominance over the WWE. They're going to beat you and they're going to take you out. It was really impressive. I liked it a lot. I really enjoyed the main event of SmackDown. I thought it was fantastic. Perfectly executed television.
Well, I thought it was all right in terms of like a wrestling match. I thought it dragged a little bit. Like, I don't think to me, it wasn't the best wrestling match I saw, but in terms of like the outcome, it was definitely the best thing in terms of the finish, without question. But honestly, like, I thought Nakamura and Sami Zayn was the best wrestling match we saw tonight.
It was pretty good. I thought Gunther and Drew Gulak was pretty good.
For what that was. Like, it's just odd. You just come back to a match. It's already, you know, in progress. It shows how much they care for that kind of match.
No, I'd give that to you. I would say that Sami and Shinsuke was probably the best wrestling match that we saw tonight, but I thought Usos and RK Bro was pretty good, and it meant way more. It was a serious main event. I mean, this was a match that we thought was going to be one of the main events of WrestleMania Backlash, and if not, one of the big matches for Hell in a Cell. Instead, we get it on SmackDown, and when we got it on SmackDown, everybody thought, non-finish, they're going to screw us on the finish. But no, we got a finish and new champions on SmackDown. You got to give them their credit. Like, everybody wants to pile on the WWE, and, you know, when they're bad, everybody wants to make a comment about how bad they are. But when they're good, I think you have to talk about that too. You know, you can't just knock them. It's not fair to just knock them. This was a good piece of television, a good piece of booking. It was well done. Very well done for me. Shout out to the members. Franco316 in the house, member of the team. Anthony McDonough out in England. Shout out to you, Anthony. And Harold Schneider, who's been a member now for 13 months.
Nice.
He drops a message. 13 months straight. Thank you, Harold. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Franco. If you are not a member, you can go to join.ringsidereport.net, join.ringsidereport.net, and become a member and support the Ringside Report Network. You can hit us up on Super Chat if you have any comments you want to drop. Harold dropping a comment. He said they showed kids crying in the audience. Didn't care for that. Well, they're heels, you know? I think once in a while, if there are children crying in the audience, it's not bad to show them because it shows you that these bad guys are really bad. They make kids cry. That's how bad these guys are. And a lot of times in wrestling, you're like, yeah, all right, these guys aren't really bad guys. But these guys, you know, people believe it. You may not believe that the Usos and Roman are really bad guys, but clearly more than one child in the audience was believing it. They had a couple kids that they were showing in tears. And I think that they were actually there in the arena tonight. It wasn't like stock footage of children crying that they showed. Although I could be wrong. They're very crafty with their editing. But I don't know, Harold. I don't hate it when they show kids crying. Like if it was my kid, I think I'd probably be mad. But just, a general kid, I think it works for heels. What do you think, John? Should they show children crying on SmackDown to kind of drive home the point?
Super chat.
Thank you, Harold. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Should they do that to drive home the point? Like when Sasha made that girl cry that was the Bayley fan. I forget her name there.
I know what you're talking about.
In NXT, she made her cry. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I thought that was really great because, man, she's such a heel. And then after the show, she gave her some stuff, and it was all cool, and she was nice. But during the show, some kids in the audience, if they're crying, it's like, well, show that because it kind of lets the audience know, oh, Roman, he's a real bad guy. Look at him. He's bad. Kids hate him.
But then it goes back to that Triple H example where Triple H made a kid cry, and then he felt bad about it and went up to the kid afterwards and apologized. And I think the kid got a bunch of free merch after that. So it's WWE's kind of standpoint where it's like they try not to upset the kids whatsoever. They realize that's their cash cow pretty much. So they try to appease them as much as possible. But I do appreciate
Triple H.
You can laugh, it's true.
Well, I know, but I just find it funny that Triple H, he makes a kid cry when he's the game, and all of a sudden he's got to be really nice for the kids, and he's taking care of the kids. Meanwhile, when I was a kid, when Triple H came out, he was like, eh. I was 10, 12 years old, and Triple H is like, show us your tits, lady, over there. Didn't care about the kids back then. Kids in the audience in the Attitude Era too, Triple H. You didn't care what we saw. Oh, I didn't mind. Sure. I didn't mind that. I mean, when you're 12 years old, you want to see boobs. Who doesn't? I think when you're 36 years old, you want to see boobs. Who doesn't like boobs? The point is, Triple H. Here. I don't know. I started talking about boobs, John. I don't know. The point is, I think children in the audience crying is not the worst thing, and I find it offensive that Triple H cares about the kids now when he didn't care about me when I was a kid. Game. But that's okay. I turned out. I'm alive. I'm alive, damn it. So Naomi and Sasha, let's get to those people. They walk out of Monday Night Raw. At the beginning of Raw, they announced this six-pack challenge match. Right. And then during Raw, they tell us, well, Sasha and Naomi have left. They gave up their belts, and they don't want to be in the WWE right now, and they're gone. And then tonight they tell us they're suspended indefinitely and they're going to have new tag team champions crowned in a tournament. It's hard to tell what's going on. I understand Sasha and Naomi's frustration with the lack of direction for the tag team titles. Now, according to Fightful and Sean Ross Sapp, who breaks all the wrestling news, he says that Naomi was supposed to win the six-pack challenge by pinning Nikki Ash, and Naomi was going to get a Raw Women's title shot against Bianca Belair at Hell in a Cell. But, what?
Because originally it was Naomi was supposed to pin Sasha, and then they complained about it, and then they got it changed to Naomi pinning Nikki. Yeah, so that's the first thing that happened. Then this happened.
Okay. Well,
so go on.
And then they said, okay, well, we don't actually, Naomi doesn't really want this match. We actually just want to defend our tag team titles at Hell in a Cell against Doudrop and Nikki Ash. Do I have that right?
Like they wanted to defend their titles. They were supposed to both get like title matches. Like Naomi was supposed to wrestle Bianca. Sasha was supposed to wrestle Ronda at the pay-per-view.
Really?
Yeah.
That was the plan?
That was the plan.
And Sasha and Naomi didn't want to do that?
Well, they clearly weren't going to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next pay-per-view, then they would come back and defend their titles. After they've just come off pay-per-view losing.
Right.
So I don't think that sit well with them, I guess.
I guess. And there was talk from the WWE that there were women that Sasha and Naomi didn't feel comfortable wrestling. Now, were those
don't know
people
who these two are.
Were those people in the six-pack challenge, or could that have been Ronda Rousey?
It's a good question.
Like,
but I think it was probably the six-pack.
See, I find that hard to believe. Because if you look at who else was in that six-pack challenge, it's Becky, it's Asuka, it's, I think, Doudrop and Nikki Ash, right?
But they wrestled Doudrop and Nikki on Raw the week prior, right? And maybe there was an issue there.
Maybe. But I think it makes more sense that Sasha just didn't want to wrestle Ronda. Because, you know.
Oh, that too.
It can be rough.
Well, also, she's not winning, too, and that's a big thing for her, so.
Yeah. And if you look at the way Sasha and Naomi have been booked as tag team champions, they're really an afterthought. And the Women's Tag Team Championship has been an afterthought since forever. It's never really meant anything. And I think maybe if Sasha does come back to the WWE, and at this point seems like a big if, maybe you don't ever give her the women's tag team titles again because it seems to go wrong when you do that. I don't know if you remember, but the last time Sasha Banks took her ball and went home, it was after losing the women's tag team titles to the Iconics at WrestleMania. Right? It's like a curse.
Well, that's...
You give her the belts, and she gets mad about something, and she leaves.
I think a lot of people look at this situation, they're like, well, this is deja vu. It's happening all over again, and, like, it's kind of shame on WWE because they should have seen this coming in a sense because this has happened before.
It's interesting, though. You know? Sasha Banks, Naomi just walking out of the company. How does this get resolved? Do they try to resolve it in a storyline fashion, give them some time, bring them back as a story, and, you know, use it and hopefully move on from there and do business? Or do they just let them go?
Well, I'd actually, I don't know, if knowing WWE, I think they're going to put them through hell. They're going to say, like, you didn't fulfill your contract, so we're going to freeze your contracts.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to go to court, but that's going to hold them up, and then they still can't wrestle. So I could see WWE easily doing that, and I would not be surprised to see that happen.
I think Naomi comes back way before Sasha does. This feels like a Sasha thing more than a Naomi thing.
but they're a team, and you can understand that Naomi would stick by her partner in a sense.
Sure.
So I get that completely.
But don't you get the feeling that that is what this is? Naomi sticking by her partner? This seems like Sasha is mad, and Naomi decided to be a good partner and a good friend and walk out with her. But this seems more like a Sasha thing than a Naomi thing. And Naomi being married to Jimmy Uso, who's the cousin to the Golden Goose, Roman Reigns, the head of the table. I mean, Naomi's in the bloodline. Naomi is part of the family. Her last name is Fatu, legally. Her name is Trinity Fatu. When your last name is Fatu, you're good in the WWE. You can walk out as many times as you want. They will bring you back. But Sasha Banks, her last name is Varnado or something. It's not Fatu, you know?
Well, she also unfollowed pretty much everyone in WWE, right?
Did she?
Apparently before this even happened.
Oh, shit.
So it sounds like there was issues before Monday Night Raw. Like she unfollowed Vince, she unfollowed WWE all before Monday even happened. So I'm guessing something happened, and it may have been that past Raw that went down in that tag match.
Wow. You know, it's an interesting deal because Sasha Banks is a wrestling icon at this point.
For the women, yes.
You could say for the women. I think for wrestling at this point, she's a big star. She's a bigger star than most of the guys in WWE. I think there's maybe a handful of guys you could say are bigger stars than Sasha. 2 or 3 women, but other than that, Sasha Banks goes into AEW. She's one of the top stars in that company.
Well, yeah, if she makes it there. But I mean,
Right.
in this past year, I can't say like she's top in WWE though. Just the way she's been used. Like, yeah, she's there and she's a name, people know her, but this past year, it doesn't feel like it whatsoever.
No.
When's her last like incredible match that you saw from Sasha?
When's the last time she's been in a match that warrants that? You know? She's been in these
With Bianca.
weirdo tags with nobody against Zelina and Carmella and all this nonsense. Like, come on. It's not real.
Like she hasn't had a good match since the year prior WrestleMania. That was her last good match.
But who has she wrestled? She's
Well,
not
that's a
in
fair
there
point,
with
too.
Charlotte. She's not in there with Bayley. She's not in there with Bianca. She's not in there with Becky. She's in there with who?
Well, actually, no. Remember they built it up where it's like, oh, she's gonna face Charlotte at WrestleMania, but then Ronda took the spot.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like she got pushed aside.
Yeah. And now she's supposed to come back after Ronda's beat Charlotte and job to Ronda? I'd be pissed. I get it. Sasha
Yeah, I
Banks
get it.
has been undervalued by the WWE. She's a megastar.
However, I mean, walking out when the show's already started, that's not the way to do it, though.
Why not?
Well, as you saw, you're going to get suspended. You're going to lose your championship, regardless what you think of it. Like,
So it's a joke
gone
title.
now.
Oh my God, they stripped
Well-
Dana Brooke of the 24/7 title. Who cares? You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. If they stripped Rick O'Shea of the Intercontinental title, would you even notice?
Well, I would just because I see commercials all the time for us. We keep seeing commercials. Oh, Ricochet will be defending on this show and this show, you know? So
Quick, John, who's
I
the
know it's
U.S.
'cause of that.
champion?
It's Theory, not Austin Theory, like you kept saying. It's Theory.
Oh, it's Theory. Doesn't matter what his name is. What do you mean I kept saying? When did I keep saying that?
You were on this other show with Andy.
There you
I don't
go.
remember what the name of the show
Hitting
is.
the turnbuckle.
There you go.
Yeah. Our buddy Andy, shout out to him. I was on his podcast this week talking professional wrestling. Hitting the Turnbuckle. Our buddy Andy out in England has a podcast now, a wrestling podcast, and I was his guest on Hitting the Turnbuckle. So if you want to hear more of me, you can check me out there. Yeah, I was his co-host pretty much, right?
Yeah.
I liked it, though. He was bringing up the stuff and asking me the questions, and then I gave my opinion. I was like the you of that show, you know?
It was cool. It was different.
Yeah. It was fun. I like Andy. He's a good man. Good talking to him. But yeah, Sasha and Naomi. I think Naomi will be back. I think Sasha may not. You walk out of the company once, and they bring you back with a sweet contract. Like, let's not forget, Sasha walked out of WrestleMania. It was done. Didn't want anything to do with it. Burnt out, depressed. She did an interview with Stone Cold about it, right? She had enough. She needed a break. But then she came back with like this huge contract, and she was all happy, and she was ready to go.
Millions will do that to you.
And now what? A year later, it's she wants out again. It's been only like a year, right? Year and a bit.
Well, it's kind of like we just talked about, where it's like, given the way she's been used, I think she looked at it, how it was, and she didn't like the landscape, how it was shaping up, where she was kind of getting pushed aside. You know, she is getting other opportunities outside of WWE. So maybe she's feeling like, I don't really need this. They need me more. So maybe that was her like power move in a sense.
Do you think they get her back?
Like, it's going to be really, really tough. Like, I think if she comes back, I don't think it's going to be for a long while. If she comes back at all. But honestly, I don't think it's worth the headache. Because I think this could easily happen again.
Well, I think she's worth it. She's Sasha Banks, but I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work for the WWE. And I've read reports like, oh, Sasha's not well-liked backstage, and she's got a ton of heat, and people are mad at Sasha. And I read the exact same thing about Charlotte Flair last November when she was going through that thing with Becky Lynch. When Charlotte and Becky had their shouting match and Charlotte left the building, or she had to be ejected from the building, or whatever happened after that promo where they dropped each other's belts. That thing, after that, everybody was like, oh, nobody likes Charlotte backstage. Charlotte is this, Charlotte is that. Meanwhile, she came back and she won big matches, and she main evented WrestleMania, and she's a big star. So, who cares? Those reports don't mean anything. I would be real surprised to find out that there was no support for Sasha Banks backstage. I doubt that strongly. And I think anybody that's reporting that is getting their information directly from a WWE stooge who's trying to get that specific information out there to disparage the good name of Sasha Banks and maybe Naomi too. But really, it seems more Sasha. New tag team champions to be crowned. Who cares? Who cares? They got no champions. They got no tag teams. Who do they give it to? Natty and Shayna? Dana and Tamina? Carmella and Zelina? Rhea Ripley and Rhea Ripley? By herself?
Well, I would put Sonya with her, I think, if you're going to put anybody, right?
Ugh. Sonya is not cool enough to be in that Edge group, and that Edge group sucks. That's how much Sonya is not interesting. You know what I mean?
Well,
like, you want to water down that group. God. Terrible. Although Edge did say he's open to anybody in the WWE to join his group. Do you see that on Raw? He's like, any superstar can join my group. You just have to be willing to take your career to the next level. So if you're bad and, you want to join Edge's group, he's willing to have you and he'll help your career somehow. Has Damian Priest's career got better since he joined Edge's group? Doesn't seem to be doing anything but gooning about for Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley seems to be more focused, but Damian Priest is just like the goon there. There's no point to him.
Well, to be fair, was he really doing anything for this? Not really. I mean, he was the champion that no one really cared about.
Well, he was a champion at one point, at least. Whatever.
I think being with Edge is better for him. At least he's getting promo time. He wasn't even talking before.
Edge wanted AJ Styles and Finn Balor to join up with him, and even Liv Morgan could join up with them, but she decided not to, and Liv Morgan accompanied AJ Styles and Finn Balor to the ring for their tag team match. They beat Los Lotharios on Raw this week. Finn and AJ did the Too Sweet pose, the Bullet Club alumni doing the Too Sweet after the match, and Liv Morgan joined in and Too Sweeted with AJ and Finn. That's the Bullet Club member you never expected, Liv Morgan. I like Finn and AJ as a team, though. I really like them together. I think it's great. You know, if you added Cody in there, it'd be a real Bullet Club reunion deal, right? 3 different potential leaders. I mean, Cody and Kenny had their kind of thing about who was the real leader of the Bullet Club, but you could call Cody a leader of the group. Finn was a leader of the group. AJ, the leader afterwards. You could say Kenny was a leader after that, and maybe Cody as well. WWE has got 3 of the most prominent Bullet Club members in that company. They're not throwing Cody in that group, but AJ and Finn are pretty cool together, right? It makes sense. It works.
Well, we talk about a lack of tag teams, but honestly, right there, you have a top-tier tag team right there. Like, I could easily see them beat the Usos for the tag team titles. I'd actually really like to see that. But I didn't really like that promo so much. They did backstage, AJ and Finn with Liv. I thought that was very bad. Like, okay, Liv says no to the House of Edge, says no to Los Lotharios, but then it's like, oh, I don't know about that with Finn and AJ. And it's like, what the heck? Then you come out with them? Like, what the hell was that?
Yeah. It didn't make a ton of sense. AJ and Finn are like, come out to the ring with us, Liv Morgan. Let's join up against Edge and Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. Like, you seem to need backup. We would like backup as well, so Rhea Ripley doesn't attack us. Let's be a team. And Liv's like, I'm not sure. And then she comes out with them. It's like, what? Who is Liv Morgan to deny Finn and AJ Styles? You know what I mean? Like, as a professional wrestler, if Finn Balor and AJ Styles ask you to join their group, like, I think you'd join their group, especially if you're Liv Morgan. You know what I'm saying? Like, Finn Balor, AJ Styles, future Hall of Famers. Liv Morgan, future endeavored. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on.
Well, I think you've brought this up before. Like, they really need to define who Liv Morgan is as a character, and they failed to do so far. Like, okay, she likes to compete, she likes to wrestle, you know, and she says, like, watch me for whatever reason. But we have no reason for these reasons. So
Yeah.
they need to explain more of what she is. Like, she came in as, I guess, she wanted to sleep with Lana, and then she just comes out and wrestles. That's it.
Yeah. Her gimmick is super weird. She's like sad sometimes and she doesn't believe in herself. But then when she comes out to the ring, she's like doing that booby shake thing. Do you see that? Every time she comes to the ring, she's like, ooh. You know what I'm saying? What's that about?
Yeah.
Why she got to do that? She's like half
I don't know.
like sexy gimmick, half emo gimmick. It's like a weird mix. I'm not sure what the hell she's supposed to be. She clearly thinks she's something. You know what I mean? She's feeling herself. But she's not supposed to be that confident, so she's kind of like pretending to be emo or whatever. It's awful, the Liv Morgan character, but whatever. Who cares about Liv Morgan? Except for nerds out there who, you know. Stephanie McMahon, okay? That's somebody to care about. That's a serious figure in this business. She means something, and she is stepping down from her current role in the WWE to spend more time with her family. Her family's Triple H. That's a lie. She's not trying to spend more time with Triple H. That's ridiculous. She's being pushed out. She's being pushed out of the company. Her and her husband, Paul, they're getting pushed out of the company, and she's not happy about it. She doesn't see a point anymore in showing up for her job. She's used to getting bossed around by Vince, but she doesn't want to get bossed around by Nick Khan. Stephanie didn't sign up for that. And that's what I think is happening. Stephanie has realized, and Triple H has definitely realized, that this isn't theirs. The WWE will never be theirs. They will never be at the helm of this company. They will not be the successors to Vince McMahon, as they once thought, as we all once thought. And they're getting out because they're frustrated, and there's no reason to go there anymore because it's not theirs. They're not wanted. Triple H got his balls taken away from him in NXT. They said, this whole NXT thing that you've built, yeah, it's terrible. We're firing everybody that you ever hired. All your scouts, all your agents, all your wrestlers, all your talent. Oh, Adam Cole was your world champion for the past several years? Cool. We're going to let him go to AEW. We don't need him anymore. Oh, William Regal is your top scout. Brilliant mind for the business. Really instrumental in so much that you've done here, Triple H. We're going to get rid of him too. Not to mention countless other Triple H confidants and apprentices of Triple H that were all just let go. The whole Triple H system was dismantled while he was laid up in the hospital with a bum heart. I mean, it is ruthless what they did to the game. Ruthless. And when he came out of the hospital, he found that there was no more NXT and no more place for him in the business. Vince McMahon thought Triple H was the guy to take over his company. And when AEW came along as competition on Wednesday nights, he saw it as a challenge for Triple H to win his own ratings war on Wednesday night. Except the NXT that was given to Triple H, even at that time, was a watered-down version of what it had once been and could no longer compete with AEW or really any company that was going hard on a Wednesday night. NXT had already been stripped away of a lot of its main parts, a lot of its big talent. And also, a lot of their talent that had gone up throughout the years, not used that great on the main roster, as another aside point to all this. So this Stephanie thing is just another move in the direction of Stephanie and Triple H stepping aside. Shane got fired. I mean, the writing is on the wall. Vince knows he will not live forever. The board of directors and the stockholders want a successor named at some point because they get nervous. When you are investing in a company and the guy who's running the company could die at any moment, you want to know, well, if he does die, what happens the next day to the business? You have to name a successor for the stockholders. John, you watch Succession?
The one episode we watched together, that was it.
Oh, well, you should watch it a little bit because this is a lot like that. Like in Succession, they want Logan Roy to name a successor because Logan Roy is nearly dead. So he puts Gerri in charge. And this is maybe what Nick Khan is. Maybe he's like a Gerri where he's kind of a puppet and Vince will still be running things. And Nick Khan is just the business guy in charge for the board of directors and the stockholders and everybody that has a vested interest in the WWE, like the cable networks and such. They want certain assurances, and Nick Khan is that assurance. If Vince goes, Nick Khan takes over, and at some point, maybe soon Nick Khan will officially take over and Vince will take a back seat in some sort of, like, he won't be the top guy in WWE anymore, but he'll still be the guy running the show behind the scenes in some sort of consultant position. But officially, on all the paperwork, Nick Khan will be the head man in charge of WWE. And that is what I think is happening right now. Triple H and Stephanie have been pushed out. Stephanie, at a certain point probably said, I'm done. They said, stick it out until after WrestleMania. She did that, and now she's done. And that's what I see. It's like, all right, they got their money. Triple H and Stephanie have a lot of stock in the WWE. They're major shareholders in the company. If there's a sale, they stand to make hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And that's where they're at. They've got a big stake in the company. They've got a lot of money invested in it, and they don't really have a say in how it's run. And that's how I see the Stephanie thing. Vince is pushing his kids out and giving the company to Nick Khan, which could wind up with, The Rock running WWE at some point, because Nick Khan and The Rock are old friends. And I wouldn't be surprised if The Rock did run the WWE one day, which would be the ultimate revenge, as the young Rock was treated quite meanly by Shawn Michaels and Triple H and the rest of the clique. They weren't very nice to young Dwayne Johnson when he came into WWE. Wouldn't it be the ultimate revenge for the Dwayne to come in and take over the company that Triple H once thought was his? Which could happen. That's my theory, John. I think it's a pretty solid theory. Thoughts? You want to poke holes in it? What do you think?
It's really hard to say. Like, that could easily happen. It makes sense, but I could also see Stephanie just needed to, spend more time with her family. It could just be the legit reason. She was just burnt out.
Now?
Well,
I mean, her kids are...
How old are her kids now?
Yeah, like, you would spend more time with them when they're much younger. Like, they're teenagers. They don't want to spend time with her anymore.
They don't want to. Yeah, but she might feel the opposite, though.
Yeah, she might, but that's not how it works. Anytime anybody says they're stepping away from a job to spend more time with their family, it's bullshit. No one ever leaves a job to spend more time with their family. No one.
Well, like I said, Larry,
some people might. Some people might. I'm not saying that. But, for the most part, when people say, oh, I'm stepping away to spend more time with my family, that's not the real reason. They're just being pushed out, and that's just the reason they give to save face.
Like, you could be right, but again, it's a stressful job, and maybe she just needs time away just to breathe.
Her job is stressful? Bro, what does she do?
Well, the fact that she has to go around WWE and pretty much she's like the ambassador in a sense, she's like almost the face of WWE if you think about it. As the Undertaker's trying to take over my house, it seems. I feel Stephanie, when you think about it, she might not be the owner of the company, but a lot of people see her as the face of WWE.
She represents the company, in corporate ways, as a brand ambassador.
Right.
But I don't think that's a really stressful job. She's not running the day-to-day operations of the WWE. I don't think that this was a job that she needed to stop doing to spend more time with her family. Unless Triple H is really sick. Like, he was in the hospital, he had a heart condition, and it seemed bad, and maybe the long-term prognosis is not good for him. That could be a thing. That I would get. That makes sense. Like, if they tell Triple H, you've got maybe 5-10 years, and, you know what I mean? Maybe. Yeah, maybe his heart is really bad, and maybe he just doesn't have a lot left. Like, if you're told your husband has a finite amount of time to live, maybe you stop everything to spend time with him. That makes sense. But I don't know.
We'll wait and see. Like, if it truly is, like, she just needs some time away, I mean, she would be back by, you would think, SummerSlam at least, right?
I don't know. Why?
Like, how long do you need to have time off for? Like, how long is this,
Forever.
Huh. Well, if it's forever, then you're right, but we'll wait and see.
If you're Stephanie McMahon and you're a multimillionaire and you stand to inherit $1 billion, say, why wouldn't you just spend time with your kids and not work? You know what I mean? At this point, she's worked for a while. She's in her 40s. Kick back. Retire. Well, why stress? What's the point? Vince is never going to give the company to you. Why stress over it? You've got money. You've got a family. You had a health scare, your husband. Chill out. Go on a beach somewhere. You have to do anything. You've done it. She's done it. There's no reason she needs to do anything. I'd retire. I want to retire right now, and I don't have millions in the bank. Come on.
Well, she's also McMahon, and as we've seen with McMahon's, they're kind of barely ever sleep kind of workers, so it's actually surprising she would take time away like this, but you would think something's going on, I would think, in terms of her family life, but again, we'll wait and see. Like, if she doesn't come back, it's more than that, obviously, but I would think she'd be back by the summer, late summer at least.
I don't know where you're getting that from. I don't think that at all. I think that she's probably done with the WWE for a year or two, at least. Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes, official for the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view inside the Hell in a Cell. It's a cell match at the Cell show. Will it sell? I don't know. They were doing a countdown to Cody on Raw. It counted down to the top of the final hour. The beginning of the third hour of Raw was a Cody Rhodes promo. And if you're going to do a 2-hour countdown, I'd expect a little bit more than just the typical Cody Rhodes rehearsed promo. This started to feel like a bad Cody AEW promo. This didn't, the crowd wasn't with him. This was the first time in WWE where I thought, this might not work.
Well, this is where it felt like, okay, like, you've done everything you can with this. I think it's time to move on with Cody, bigger and better things. But now we're just hitting the replay button. And that's when you're going to lose people, when you just kind of have Cody going this endless cycle of he's going to wrestle Rollins, he's going to wrestle Miz. He'll probably wrestle Theory again the week after or something. Like, when you just put on repeat, I think you lose interest. I know I didn't care that much.
No. And Cody going in about, Seth was in the Shield and he was champion and he got to the top of the mountain and he kept winning and I lost a lot and I want to be champion and Seth was champion and then Seth shows up on the Tron and he's laughing like a maniac and he's like, oh, it's a bad idea to challenge me to Hell in a Cell because I changed people in the cell, Cody. I'm going to change you.
All the time, too.
It was weak. And I don't remember Seth doing any kind of damage to anybody, having any kind of violent Hell in a Cell matches ever. I know that he's been in Hell in a Cell, but I could not tell you any of the matches that he's had in there, any of the opponents, probably Roman maybe, I'm guessing, at some point, maybe Dean Ambrose, one of those guys, I guess, right?
Ambrose was the first one. That's the only one he won, and then he lost the rest. He lost to Kevin Owens. He lost to The Fiend in probably the worst Hell in a Cell match ever.
Oh, yeah.
And then he lost to Edge last year.
Didn't he lose by, like, DQ? No, that was a non-finish. Wasn't that the non-finish Hell in a Cell?
Yeah.
He got disqualified. Did he get disqualified?
Or it was very confusing.
I don't think there was a finish with The Fiend, right? It was like a mallet that he hit him with, and then like the match just ended. I don't know what the hell that was. Yeah, Seth Rollins doesn't have this great history in Hell in a Cell, so when he's out there talking about, I changed people in Hell in a Cell, huh?
The match with Edge last year was very good in Saudi Arabia. That was good. So he kind of redeemed himself almost. But if you look at his record, he does a terrible record in Hell in a Cell. So
yeah, I just
shouldn't
don't
be
care.
really proud of that.
And Cody and Seth in the Hell in a Cell at Hell in a Cell. Does that do anything to help get you excited for this show? Like,
well, what else we got? I mean, that's the only match right now so far, right? Really? I mean, we have Bianca and Asuka, but like, in terms of big time matches, like that's the only real match, really.
Yeah, Asuka beat Becky Lynch in the Raw main event this week to become the new #1 contender for Bianca Belair. It'll be Bianca versus Asuka. Asuka used the mist, spat the mist in Becky's face.
Like the referee clearly saw the mist all over Becky's face, yet still counts to 3. That was stupid.
Yeah, I mean clearly Asuka cheated. Yeah, Becky went to use an umbrella that Asuka had as a weapon. The referee took the umbrella away. Asuka sprayed the mist in Becky's face and then kicked her in the head. 1, 2, 3. The referee clearly saw all the mist in Asuka's mouth and on Becky's face, but whatever. Just a title match on pay-per-view. It's not like the match meant anything, referee, but hey, what are you going to do? They didn't want to beat Becky clean, and this was the best shit they could come up with.
Also, they didn't have a lot of time to think about this, right? Because this wasn't supposed to happen. They had to think about this during the show, right? So I can kind of understand where there would be some holes in the logic. I mean, there's holes in the logic when they actually plan stuff out, so well in advance.
I thought it'd be a little bit better if Bianca actually cost Becky the match. You know? Like,
well, again,
it wouldn't
more thought into it.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have exposed the referee as much, and it's really not that complicated to do because Bianca's already ringside, right? Becky went after Bianca at one point. Bianca jumped on the apron. When Bianca jumps on the apron, Becky can go after Bianca. Asuka rolls up. Becky, 1, 2, 3. You don't have to use the mist. You don't have to expose the referee. You just do a typical distraction finish. You continue the heat between Becky and Bianca, but you don't have another match. And you do Asuka and Bianca, with Asuka still getting the win over Becky. Becky's still getting screwed over, but she doesn't take the mist in the face, and the referee doesn't get exposed. I mean, okay, you missed it, during the match, but after the match, you see Becky's face. You could say, whoa, 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 Asuka, you cheated. You're disqualified, or the match continues, or something. Like referees sometimes realize that the person was cheating, and they're like, well, match continues. But in this case, the referee was like, Raw's over. I want to go home. This show's boring. All they had to do was have Bianca do the distraction finish, and like you say, it takes more thinking, but it doesn't really.
For them.
It doesn't really. It's an easy workaround.
I don't think they put much thought into it. They didn't put enough care into that match. That's what it looked like to me. And like the ref, like you say, oh, the match is over. You see that before the match is over, like when the ref's doing the 1, 2, 3, the ref's clearly looking to see if the shoulders were up or not, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, unless he's blind as a bat, like how do you not see there's green like everywhere over Becky? Yeah. Like it doesn't make any sense. But again, they didn't put enough thought and care into it, and like. It breaks our brains that they can't think about this, but they just didn't think about it. They're just like, okay, go do this, that's it. I don't think they really thought about the repercussions.
Ryan Katz says Asuka has been using the green mist for years, and it's never a DQ. I mean, he's not wrong. It's not the first time this has happened, but it doesn't make a ton of sense. Though. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's... But, I mean... I guess it's a foreign object, but it's spit, really. Just spitting on somebody, you're allowed to do that. Like, if you spit in somebody's eye and then pin them, like, that's fine. I think.
Yeah, but like it's a foreign substance. That's the problem. Like,
Yeah. You know what's not a foreign substance, Johnny North? Lacey Evans. She's as American as apple pie. She's going to get those USA chants going. She's the most American character since Hacksaw Jim Duggan. What the hell was that promo this week on Raw? Some motivational stuff, thanking the troops. Let's thank the troops. Let's thank them again. Let's all stand up and thank the troops. Let's chant USA. And the people in Norfolk, Virginia, were all about it. I don't know.
Let's point to all the military officers, and like there was none that they scanned to the crowd to. That wasn't really well thought out.
But I guess Lacey, the mystery is solved with Lacey. She's a babyface now. They're trying to make her a babyface. They did screw up on SmackDown a couple weeks ago where they're like, Lacey demands you cheer for her. And the people were like, okay, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, she's been cutting these backstage promos about how terrible her life has been and her parents were bad and how everybody's been bad to her and she's poor and everything's bad, but she pulled herself up by her bootstraps, by God, joined the military, became a Marine, became a mom, became a WWE superstar, and if she can do it, anybody can, and she's no better than anyone else on the roster, but she's no worse either. All right. I mean, she might be worse than some of them. She might be better than some of them, too. I think that's incorrect thing to say, Lacey, but that's her catchphrase. I'm no better, but I'm no worse than any of these ladies. All right. She's a heel now to me. Shut the fuck up. Fucking whack. What a bad promo on Raw. I hated it. It was almost as bad as Serena Deeb's promo on Dynamite, which I'm sure we'll get to. Oh, God.
Different
kind of bad. But this was bad, right? The Lacey thing? Like, let's keep talking about the troops. I mean, that might work in the United States, but you go outside of the U.S., I don't know how Lacey's going to get over. I mean, Americans do like chanting USA, I suppose, but outside of the USA, I don't know what her gimmick is.
In Canada, she's a top heel. There's going to be no question about
yeah,
that.
Right?
But I feel like she was overdoing it, and like I'm thinking that they're doing that on purpose, where they want people to get tired of her, because she overdid the whole troops thing. Like, let's give it up to the troops, let's point out to the troops. Like, it's way too much, and I feel like in the end, people are going to get tired of her, and I think they want that to happen. I think that's the end game here, is that she will be a heel, but not right away.
Yeah, I don't know. It's odd. I think you're probably right, but I don't know if the WWE is as smart as you are and if they have figured that one out.
They figure it out eventually.
Was that Bobby Lashley Omos cage match on Raw the most uneventful, boring cage match you've ever seen in your life? Because
I like the beginning.
I mean, I don't know. That started off Raw, and I was like, oh, cool, cage match to start Raw. It was actually MVP cutting a promo basically explaining how cage matches work. Right. And then they did the cage match. Like, what the hell was that? To win this match, you can escape over the top or go through the door or pin your opponent in the ring, and that's what Omos is going to do. It's like, all right. A little too much exposition there, MVP, just explaining to us how these matches work. Like we've never seen wrestling before. Yeah, I thought that match was pretty boring. Bobby wound up beating Omos when Omos tossed Bobby through the cage. Omos just standing around confused in the ring for like a minute while Bobby sold on the cage outside the ring. And then eventually got up, stood on the floor, so that he could be announced as the official winner. I think maybe MVP was explaining how to win this match so that Omos knew the rules. Because Omos seemed unclear. When your opponent is like a foot away from the floor. You're supposed to try and stop him from touching the floor, not just stand in the ring looking confused. You know what I mean? Like, couldn't Omos have, like, jumped for Bobby and tried to grab him, and then Bobby rolls away to win? Because otherwise it just made Omos look like an idiot. Because stand there for a second and be like, oh, man, I just threw Bobby through the cage. Shocked. But he stood there for way too long. It looked dumb. Bad finish. Bad match. They had to throw Cedric Alexander off the top of the cage just to throw some spice into this one. Boring. Didn't like it.
Well, I thought to start Raw, I had no problem with this. Like, I think if this was much later in the card, yeah, it probably wouldn't have been good. But, I mean, if we got this over right away, I'm like, oh, that's not a bad way to start it. And like you said, Cedric took a pretty good bump off the top. I had no problem with this. And, like, maybe the finish, they overdid it with the whole, like, Bobby's got to sell the fact, oh, he's outside the cage, and the get up, that was kind of a little too much. But that's them trying to sell the story more, I think.
It would just make Omos look a little bit better if he made a move towards Bobby. You know, he doesn't have to catch him,
100%.
but make a move towards a guy so you're, like, trying to still win. You know?
Right. But he doesn't have that experience to pull that off, you know? But they just told him, like, be shocked.
Yeah.
He didn't have the idea of, like, oh, maybe it's still a match. The match's still going, you know? So, but, I mean, the fact that you pull off that stunt, that's not an easy stunt to pull off, too, and there's no accidents. Like, Bobby could easily got hurt in that, too.
Yeah, no, it was a cool stunt. Okay, you have to explain something to me now.
Uh-oh.
Who is feuding with Mustafa Ali? Okay? Miz last week was the heel referee for Mustafa Ali versus Ciampa, and he did a fast count to help Ciampa beat Mustafa. This week, Austin Theory is there, and he looks like he's going to have a match with Mustafa Ali.
Supposed to.
Right. And Miz is going to be the referee. But then Theory goes, well, actually, Ali, you lost last week, so I don't think that you should get a shot at me this week because you lost, and I'm the U.S. champion. I'm more important than you. So you're not going to wrestle me. You're going to wrestle Veer. And then Veer proceeds to just beat Ali without Miz really helping much as the ref. Like, he helped a bit, but he didn't do that much. Like, it was mostly just Veer winning straight up, making Ali tap out. And then Veer, Theory, and Miz all ganged up on Ali, leaving me to wonder, well, is Miz feuding with Ali because he's doing the heel ref thing? Is Veer now feuding with Ali because he just beat him clean? Or is Austin Theory feuding with Ali because he refused to have a match with him and then did a post-match beatdown? And then to confuse the issue even more, Rey and Dominic Mysterio showed up and saved Ali, who was getting beat up by the three heels. So I guess it's like a six-man tag feud now, but everybody just seems mad at Ali, and I'm not sure who Ali is actually feuding with. Is it Miz? Is it Theory now? Is it Veer? Like, who?
Well, I think Veer's feuding with the Mysterios, right? Because he took them out, right? So I think that's there.
Okay.
And I feel like Ali, didn't he come back against Theory? So it started with Theory. Miz is kind of like the Sami Zayn in this kind of feud, where it's like you got to get through the Miz to get to Theory.
Oof. Quite a spot. Gatekeeper for Theory.
Yeah.
Okay. So Theory's feuding with Ali. All right. Glad we got that covered. Kevin Owens and Gable and Otis are still doing their thing. I like Gable and Otis and Kevin Owens together, even though this whole thing with Ezekiel is really stupid. They had a match. Ezekiel beat Chad Gable. I mean, it's dumb, but it's still happening.
Well, Kevin makes it entertaining though. I love his interactions with Otis and Gable, talking about the whole DNA test and like Otis screwed it up with the barbecue ribs. Like, I mean, it's dumb when you think about it, but the way they
Yes,
pull it off, like, it's pretty good. Like, they're good at pulling off dumb stuff.
they are. Otis is good at it. Gable's good at it. Kevin's good at it. They're good at it, but it's so dumb. The material's really bad, but the performers are great. So it somehow is saved. Alexa Bliss beat Sonya Deville on Raw. Alexa's back and has beat Sonya twice now. Sonya got mad at the ref. Sonya had unhooked the turnbuckle, and then the referee went to fix a turnbuckle, and while the ref was fixing the turnbuckle, Sonya spinebustered Alexa and pinned her for what looked like a 5 count, but the ref wasn't there. Sonya goes to confront the ref. Alexa hits a DDT, 1, 2, 3. Alexa wins again, and then Sonya gets mad and slaps the referee. Alexa's back. Her shorts seem to be getting shorter every week. I don't think that's by accident.
Well, I think it's to sell the look because like they're still doing the doll thing, right? So
I don't.
I
Did
think
she have
it's
the
just to
doll
sell
this
that.
week?
Oh yeah, the doll's still in the Titantron too.
But
Like,
did she
doll ain't going away.
Did she bring it to the ring? I didn't notice her walking to the ring with it this week.
Pretty sure she did. Pretty
Uh-huh.
sure she did. That's the moneymaker. Ain't getting rid of that.
I think it's those short shorts as the moneymaker for Alexa Bliss, John. I think that's what's getting her a lot of those fans. A lot of those men, grown men, are buying the doll just to get closer to Alexa Bliss. Yeah, so that was Raw. It was, eventful, mostly because of Sasha Banks and Naomi leaving the company. Wild stuff.
Well, that whole press release that WWE released, that's kind of unheard of. I've never seen WWE ever do something like that.
Yeah, they said that they had time to rehearse their performance or whatever, right? They said rehearse.
8 hours.
8 hours to rehearse. I'm like, whoa. Can we rewind a little bit and kayfabe a little bit, please? Rehearse? These matches are rehearsed? What do you mean? This is a performance? What are we talking about? And, like, I get it. Wrestling's fake. It's all fake. We get it. But, what about kayfabe? What about, the men and women that have sacrificed for kayfabe in the past? Can we keep it alive a little bit? Can we try a little bit? That statement from the WWE was shocking. The rehearsing.
It was just meant to bury them. 100%. I don't know about you. I think someone was angry, clearly, more than likely Vince, and it's just like, put this out there. This is what I think. And he's wow. Like it hurt WWE, I think, more than helped them in a sense, because everyone thought it was either work or like, oh, WWE's a horrible place. Like, how could they do this to them? Like, it didn't help WWE whatsoever, really, with that statement. They should have just said, like, this happened, they left. Well, more details in the future, whatever, But to try to bury them, that's where WWE looked bad.
I want to read this.
Oh, I know, because there's more we didn't even talk about, too. Like,
what?
I think the whole, like, talking about how, like, there was issues or whatever they had with somebody, with 2 other people in the match. There was that statement.
Well, here's the official statement from WWE. I can get it for you here in a moment. Here we go. So here it is from WWE.com. Official WWE. Huh? Yeah, they seem great.
They seem happy there.
Official WWE statement on Sasha Banks and Naomi. When Sasha Banks and Naomi arrived at the arena this afternoon, they were informed of their participation in the main event of tonight's Monday Night Raw. During the broadcast, they walked into WWE Head of Talent Relations John Laurinaitis' office with their suitcases in hand. Placed their tag team championship belts on his desk and walked out. They claimed they weren't respected enough as tag team champions. And even though they had 8 hours to rehearse and construct their match, they claimed they were uncomfortable in the ring with 2 of their opponents, even though they'd had matches with those individuals in the past with no consequence. 2 of their opponents. Monday Night Raw is a scripted live TV show whose characters are expected to perform the requirements of their contract. We regret we were unable to deliver as advertised tonight's main event. They claimed they were uncomfortable in the ring with 2 of their opponents. Apparently that's bullshit. That's just WWE trying to bury Sasha and Naomi to the rest of the roster.
Well, that's where a lot of heat's going to be built off, right? Because it's like a he said, she said kind of thing. And it's like, where's the truth? And now that's where you're going to get this huge divide, I think, within the roster, because some people are going to believe WWE, some people are going to believe what Sasha and Naomi are saying. Like, it's just not good all around for everybody when you think about it.
That WWE statement, Ryan Katz says that statement was pathetic. I don't disagree. It was a really petty statement from WWE. They are so petty. They never take the high road, right? They never take the high road.
Like, just make it simple, It's like they walked out, that's it. You didn't have to put every little thing, just like they want to compete, they've left, that's it. Just keep it simple. No,
they could stop it. When Sasha and Naomi arrived, they were informed of their participation in the main event. During the broadcast, they walked into John Laurinaitis' office with their suitcases in hand, placed their tag team belts on his desk, and walked out. Now here, I'll tell you what they should have done, John. Very easy, the much classier move, right? You have this paragraph here. Sasha Banks, Naomi arrived, all this during the broadcast, placed on the desk, walked out. This paragraph did not need to be in. Because if you just say, place belts on his desk, walked out, fine, and then you skip to, we regret we were unable to deliver as advertised tonight's main event, you got no problems there. There's no heat. It's a classy statement. Right. It's like, they were here, they're not here, we're sorry we couldn't do the main event. But they had to add this. They claim they weren't respected enough as tag team champions. They weren't respected. And even though they had 8 hours, they had 8 whole hours to rehearse and construct their match, but they were uncomfortable with 2 of their opponents, even though they had matches with them before with no consequence. What's their problem? Monday Night Raw, by the way, if you don't know, it's a scripted live TV show, and our characters are expected to perform the requirements of their contract, whether they like it or not. That's how that whole paragraph reads. Like a whiny little bitch. They claim they weren't respected enough as champions. Well, I think that they're stupid. That's what it comes off as. They needed to take away that. I don't know why that little paragraph had to be in. They take it out, they come off way better. But they couldn't help themselves. They can't help it. Just like when they announced, they congratulated. Congratulations to Renee Young on the birth of her child. So petty.
Yeah.
They could have said, congratulations to Renee Young and Dean Ambrose, John Moxley. Nope, just Renee. Congratulations. Fuck you, Moxley. They even use a congratulatory announcement to be petty to a former talent. Like, they can't ever take the high road and be classy.
Well, it's rough, too, because this had just happened, right? And I think a lot of emotions were at a high, and I think WWE, they're not good when they're emotional, as we've seen many times in the past. When they're emotional, they're going to do some horrible things, as we've seen. And unfortunately, we saw a bad side of WWE. But again, this is not to say that that's what Sasha and Naomi should have done. They definitely shouldn't have walked out like that. And like, WWE calling them unprofessional on Raw. I mean, it's merited. Like I get that. I know some people were pissed that WWE said that, but I mean, it's factual.
But they didn't have to go all.
No, they didn't. They went too far, like they usually do.
Franco, I got to correct you on your Tony Soprano quote. You got it wrong, my friend. I can't let that stand. Franco wrote, "You want respect, you earn respect." That is not the quote. The quote from Tony Soprano is, "Those who want respect, give respect." And he's saying that to Richie Aprile and Jackie Jr. Those who want respect, give respect. Tony Soprano, the man. But I can't let that Sopranos quote go unchecked because I am a Sopranos quote machine. I've seen that show more times than anybody should see any show. It's okay, Franco. Don't worry about it. I am I'm a Sopranos encyclopedia. I know everything and anything about the Sopranos, every episode, every character. You think I know pro wrestling? I know Sopranos just as well. I mean, maybe not as well as pro wrestling, but goddamn, pretty damn close. Pretty damn close. Tonight on SmackDown, LA Knight became Max Dupree. Did I get that right? Dupree. He is,
I think so,
the head of Maximum Male Models, and he signed a contract with Sonya Deville to work for WWE. And he tells Adam Pearce this, and Pearce is like, well, Sonya doesn't work for WWE as a manager person. And then he's like, well, I have a contract, so I'm going to be working here. And Pearce is like, okay. Max Dupree. And he's like, it's Dupree. Dupree. And he's like, all right, cool. And that's how I felt. Like, what? What? Is he a manager? I don't get it.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So his like male talent, whatever thing is just going to be just like he's going to have guys as his guys and he'll be a manager. He was LA Knight in WWE. Before that, he was
Eli Drake.
Eli Drake. There you go. And now he's Max Dupree. I am going to reserve the right to delay my criticism of this character because I haven't seen enough. I'm not sure. I may like it. I'm not sure if I like it. I think I might like it. A manager with a big stable of wrestlers or, a few guys. I like managers. I think he could be a good manager. Why not? I don't hate this. This could work. This could be terrible. When I saw it, I was like, what? I'm a little confused by it, but I don't hate it. Could work.
Well, the only problem I had with this was the fact that, you build up someone in NXT and then you bring them up to the main roster and you completely change the name, completely change the gimmick.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of NXT exactly?
There is none.
All right. Well, as long as we establish that.
Yeah. Is there supposed to be a point to NXT? I don't know.
At one point, I thought there was. Like, it was kind of like, you start here and you work your way up to the main roster. Now it's like, you just spend time there and eventually they'll bring you up or they won't. It's pretty much how it works now.
2 more episodes of Raw and SmackDown before Hell in a Cell, and they only have 2 matches announced, so they better get cracking, right? 2 more weeks of TV before this thing goes down. June 5th in Chicago.
I mean, there was only 6 matches on WrestleMania Backlash. I don't think there'll be that much more on Hell in a Cell.
Do you do an Usos RK Bro rematch at Hell in a Cell?
I say yes, but I mean, with the way you ended SmackDown, like, where do you go from there? unless it's Hell in a Cell.
6-man Hell in a Cell.
It's kind of lame.
Where was Drew not making the save for those guys tonight? I guess he had other things, right? He wasn't in the building. He was doing promotion for WWE.
Oh yeah, for the Castle, right? Yeah, Clash of the Castle. Yeah,
the tickets are on sale there. Apparently, tickets for the Wales pay-per-view there in September. Tickets are very expensive. I saw tickets that were like £3,000 or something, like something crazy.
I think Andy said 4,000. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. Tickets everywhere are just up in price. Even for the Smackdown show here, I was like, what the hell are they doing? Way more expensive than they used to be. Tell you. With 2 kids now, John, I'm starting to think of the price for things as for a family of 4, you know? I'm that dad now.
It must be rough.
I'm that dad. I'm thinking about things, how much they cost for a family of 4. And it's a lot for a lot of shit. I'm like, what the hell? God, now I know what all those people... you know, when you always hear about that, it's like, oh, could you believe how much it costs to take a family of 4 to a baseball game? And I'm like, oh, yeah, it must suck to be a family of 4. Now I'm a family of 4. Now that's what I have. And it's like, God damn, pal, everything's expensive. Gas is expensive. Tickets for things and outings are expensive. And I'm like, have I become that dad? Thinking about the price of gas and like, shit, how much it costs for my family to go to places. I think that's who I've become. I know I'm old now, John, because these are the things that, like, you know, I think about. Oh, boy.
Just wait 5 years from now.
What happened?
How crazy it's going to be.
Shut up, John. What do you mean? It'll be better.
Just the landscape of your family then. Like, it's going to be...
The landscape of my life.
Yeah, that too.
We'll both be in our 40s in 5 years, John.
Like, I feel pretty good. Like, we'll see how you are.
What do you mean? I feel pretty good too. I did 2 sessions of jiu-jitsu this week. I went 2 days to the gym this week, and last week, and the week before. Well, I'm crushing it.
Good.
I mean, I'm getting crushed as well, but I'm in top shape right now. You should see me, John.
Good to hear.
Jacked, brother. Feeling good.
Summertime.
I mean, I'm not Johnny North jacked, but I'm, Dave jacked, which is pretty good. Dave jacked is as jacked as I need to be. All right. Speaking of jacked, let's talk about some of these boys out in AEW land and what's going on over there. Samoan Joe, who's not particularly jacked, but he's awesome. He beat Johnny Elite, who's very jacked. You know him as Johnny Nitro or Johnny Impact or Johnny Morrison or John Hennigan or whatever you know him as, Johnny Mundo. You know who I'm talking about. He was in WWE. He was Johnny Nitro. And then he was John Morrison with The Miz for a while and the Drip Sticks. Remember the Drip Sticks last summer? That was last summer. And here he is. He's in AEW for one night. It may be more, but it was one night only. He was the Joker in the Owen Hart tournament. And Samoan Joe beat him with the Muscle Buster and a pinfall to advance to the semifinals. Joe will take on Kyle O'Reilly this week on Dynamite, with the winner facing Adam Cole in the finals at Double or Nothing. I'm going to guess Samoa Joe beats Kyle O'Reilly. I don't think they do Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole in the finals of this tournament.
Well, when this started, I had Cole and Joe in the finals, so I'm going to stick with that. It makes the most sense. I thought that match to start Dynamite was like perfect. Like Johnny Elite, that was the perfect opponent. Like someone that could give Joe a good match, but yeah, he's not going to win. But it was perfect. Like that's kind of match Joe needs, I think, at this point.
Yep. I thought it was really good because it was a new guy. It was a twist. But it wasn't a guy that, like you said, needed to win. And he's not a guy that, like if Cesaro was making his AEW debut and he'd signed a contract, it's like, he probably should win his first match. But John Morrison, he comes in, and it's unclear if he's there for just one night or whatever. And even if he's there and he has signed a contract and he does stick around, he didn't need to win. Like Evan Bourne or Matt Sydal, Wasn't he a joker for a battle royal or something at one point? And he didn't win, and he didn't need to win. It was just
he's
like,
good to have on the roster, though.
that's it. It's like, oh, cool, he's here now. Well, he doesn't need to be the top guy, but it's good to have John Morrison there. And if Johnny Elite becomes a more regular member of the AEW roster, good. And if he doesn't, it's too bad, but him losing his first match in AEW isn't going to kill what he becomes in AEW, right? I think whatever he is, he'll never be at the level of beating a Samoan Joe on TV. And yeah, it was unexpected, right? It was fun. It was a little surprise.
He fit the role that was needed. He had a good match. That's what we needed to see. And now we get to move the tournament on.
That's it. Thank you, Harold Schneider, dropping a super chat. You are the super chat leader of the night right now. Thank you, my man. Supporting the Ringside Report Network. If you have any comments or questions, drop a super chat here. We are with you after every episode of Smackdown. And I'll be back for more wrestling talk after Dynamite next week, okay? Wednesday night after Dynamite, I'm coming on to talk AEW and to get you ready for AEW Double or Nothing. We'll do the Double or Nothing preview, though, next week. How about Hangman Page versus Takeshita? That guy was awesome.
I mean, to push Hangman to his limit, I wasn't expecting that. I thought it'd be a lot like how we saw Punk and John Silver from last week, where it's like he'll get a little bit over, but in the end, like he's gonna, show that he's the champ. But no, this pretty much went back and forth, and like it looked like Hangman was gonna lose at some points.
But I mean, I like John Silver, and I think he's really good, but I see Takeshita work in the ring, and I think, whoa, okay, he could be a main eventer in this company. He's very good.
He showed it.
Yeah, right? Like, his level of wrestling is pretty damn high. He's a big guy. He's athletic. He's got a great look. I don't know if he speaks English, but I don't know how much it matters with that level of in-ring ability. He's easily one of the better wrestlers in AEW right now.
Well, I mean, for a guest spot kind of thing, yeah, for sure. I don't know if this really helped Hangman that much, though, because it kind of makes Hangman seem like he's a bit weaker than Punk going into the match.
Yeah. But if he beats Punk, doesn't matter.
Well, I'm thinking Punk's going to win, but I guess we'll wait and see. That's the main event, so definitely selling the pay-per-view.
I'm leaning towards Hangman winning at this point. I think Hangman's going to win. I think that they are trying to make Hangman into a legit world champion by having him beat all the guys on the roster. Kenny, Bryan, Punk. They're just going to make Hangman this unstoppable force. I don't know if they give it to Punk here. I think Hangman goes through Punk. That is my feeling right now.
Oh, one more episode, right? We'll find out.
We'll do the preview next week. We'll give you our picks for each and every match on Double or Nothing on next week's episode of Wrestling Uncensored here on a Friday night. Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland beat JD Drake and some other guy. It was a decent short match there. Good showcase of Lee and Swerve. They're a good tag team. It's a good use of Lee and Swerve. As singles guys, I don't think they were really going to take off in AEW, but as a tag team, especially since they're both, from WWE, and they're both new and came into AEW at relatively the same time, and they seem like they have some camaraderie and chemistry, it works. It doesn't feel like a tag team that was slapped together. It feels like a real tag team because they haven't had a lot of time to be established in AEW as single stars because they really haven't done that much. So putting them as a team right away, it's like, oh, okay, they're a team. They seem like a team, and they work as a team, and they're a pretty good team. I like them.
Well, they're all right. I feel Keith Lee, though, could be like a TNT champion, though. I feel Keith Lee is like super over already, and he's a good worker in the ring. Like I feel as a singles champion, he can be there right away.
Those promos are
But
so bad, though. Like, Swerve really gives him some personality in the promo. I think that's why Keith Lee needs to be in a tag team, because his work and his look aren't good enough to get him over the hump of how bad his promo is.
oh, I think that's debatable. But I
You
mean,
like
they're
his
not in that spot
promos?
right now. Like I don't think they're that. I think his work and his look, like I think they supersede like his promo like ability being not the best. Like I think the fact that he can work the way he does, I think people look past like a lot of the bad. I think his work's
Who,
good, man.
who would you rather watch in a match, just any random match? They tell you, oh, Keith Lee's wrestling tonight or Darby Allin's wrestling tonight.
Different styles though. It's totally different. Though. I
But
mean,
who would
Darby
you?
Allin, you know he's gonna kill
Yeah, but
himself.
who would
Like
you
yeah, of
rather
course, Darby
watch?
Allin.
Darby Allin. That's what I'm saying.
But that's because you think Darby's probably not gonna live after that match. That's a totally different kind of thing, though.
Yeah, but
Keith
he
Lee's a
can.
bit of a smarter wrestler.
But Darby's promos aren't like amazing. I like his movies and everything, but his promos aren't great. He's way smaller than Keith Lee, but in the ring, it's like, well, he's must see. Keith Lee is not must see in the ring, and he's not must hear on a promo. You've got to have something where it's like, I can't miss this. Like Max Caster is not must see in the ring. He's must hear on that mic. He starts cutting that promo. He starts doing the rap. It's like, I must hear this. You know, Bryan Danielson starts talking. I must hear what he's saying. He starts wrestling. I must see this match. CM Punk, same deal. Hangman Page, same deal. These days, I must hear what he's saying because it means something because he's the champion, and I must watch his matches because they're all excellent. But Keith Lee, it's like, yeah, I don't need to see his matches. They're okay, but whatever. And the promos, it's like, I'd rather not. You know, I like Keith Lee. I think he's really talented. But I think he's best suited right now to be in a tag team with Swerve because Swerve is pretty good in the ring and he's got quite a bit of personality. So he's good on the mic and he's going to help Keith Lee kind of bring him out of his shell a little bit. Keith Lee is, you know, like a reserved guy. Swerve is more kind of laid back and he seems more loose. Keith Lee seems real stuffy. It's a good mix. Good chemistry. Ricky Starks and Will Hobbs showed up, called Lee and Swerve selfish jabronis, which I thought was a funny line. And then Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus and Christian shows up. And Christian gets on the mic and he's like, we're the best tag team and we challenge you to a 3-way tag team match, a double or nothing. And I'm like, we? Aren't you like not even on this tag team, Christian? Why are you making the challenges and why are you saying we? I don't know.
Well, because he's kind of like their leader in a sense, so why not?
I think that there's dissension in the ranks between Christian and the Jungle Boy, and I think this is where the Jungle Boys lose the tag team titles at this pay-per-view. It'll be Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus defending against Starks and Hobbs, and also Lee and Swerve in a triple threat tag team title match, a double or nothing. I'd like to see Lee and Swerve win the belts. They don't have to beat Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus to do it. They could beat Starks and Hobbs and become champions. I would go in that direction. I've been a big proponent of taking the belts off the Jungle and the Lucha. I wanted to put them on FTR, but maybe FTR's too busy. I don't know. They got a bunch of belts they got to defend. They're defending against Roppongi Vice on Dynamite, I think,
Right.
or Rampage or something.
Yeah. No, I think Dynamite.
Yeah. Their Ring of Honor titles against Trent and Rocky Romero. Is FTR defending that? You think Lee and Swerve have a shot of becoming the new tag team champions, or do Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus retain? I don't think Starks and Hobbs have a shot.
I'm gonna have to see that three. They have a 3-way match on Dynamite this week, so I think that match will be very telling to see how the pay-per-view match will go. I think it's Swerve against Jungle Boy against Ricky Starks.
Yeah.
So after that match, I think we'll have a good idea how the 3-way tag will go, I think. Right now I'm thinking Jurassic Express, but that three-way might tell me something different.
Chris Jericho and William Regal had their promo on Dynamite this week. I thought it was fantastic stuff. Jericho's promo on Regal was
moment of the show.
Yeah, it was great, right? It was really good. Jericho with some excellent lines at Regal, even taking a couple shots at Moxley. Yeah, it was really good stuff. I thought that
Bryan.
Jericho promo was great. And Bryan, I mean, kind of like Bryan, but he didn't really have much to go at with Bryan.
Not much, just saying that you look like a nerd, and like him and Kingston, like they don't really get along. That's about it.
That was about it. But the lines about Regal, I mean, he was cutting deep. You should have been a world champion. Instead, you were a world-class scout. You know, like you have demons, and you let your demons get the better of you, and just like John Moxley, you know what I mean? Like he was taking shots at Moxley's alcoholism and shit. It was kind of a wild promo from Jericho. All Regal really had was like, hey, every time you had a match, I would go into your bag, take your toothbrush, and stick it on my butt. And I was like, that's it? That's your retort, Regal? That's all you got? Toothbrush in the butt? It's a weird thing to do.
Yeah, you know? It wasn't for Regal. It wasn't much, but off all this now, I guess we have a 5-on-5 match. Anarchy in the Arena, they're calling it.
Yeah. I like that Jericho was about to challenge him to a Stadium Stampede match, and John Moxley was like, no, I'm not doing any of that. I want to have a real fight. I don't want to get drawn into your sports entertainment bullshit. I thought that was funny. That was funny. So instead they have instead of Stadium Stampede, it's Anarchy in the Arena, which seems similar, but
exactly. I mean, like, was it really? You just changed the name. It's the same thing, isn't it? Like, from what I'm guessing here.
I don't know.
It should have been Blood and Guts. Should have been Blood and Guts.
Wheeler, Utah was not with Moxley and Bryan and Regal this week. I don't know why. He wasn't on Dynamite.
He's in the tournament in Japan, they said.
Oh, is he in the Best of the Super Juniors? I didn't know that. I haven't been watching.
Said, yeah.
Oh, okay. I have not been tuning into the Best of the Super Juniors. That makes sense that he's in that tournament. It's a better group without him, though. Like they had a tag team match on Rampage. It was pretty good. You know, and the tag team match wasn't like a 6-man tag. It was just Bryan and Moxley. They did a promo on Rampage. It was pretty good. Just Bryan and Moxley. The stuff in the ring, you know, on Dynamite this week, just Bryan and Moxley. And the match at the pay-per-view will just be Bryan and Moxley teaming with Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz to take on Jericho, Matt Menard, Angelo Parker, Daniel Garcia, and Jake Hager. Anarchy in the Arena. It's a better group without Wheeler, Utah, because he's the jabroni of the group. Moxley and Bryan, they're two legit world champions led by a great mind in the wrestling business, William Regal. Wheeler, Utah is, a guy in the Best of the Super Juniors.
Well, it's good for him, though. I mean, it's not a bad spot.
I mean, it's not great. It doesn't really matter. It's a cool tournament to be in. You know, it's cool. It's a cool tour. A lot of history, but I don't know. Like, if I had the choice, I would stick to AEW right now. But I guess he doesn't have a choice, and he's got obligations to New Japan because he's been in New Japan for a while doing their American shows. Whatever. He could stay in New Japan for all I care. I think it's a better group with just Bryan and Moxley. The attempt to make Wheeler, Utah the star of the group, or at least a star in the group, has dragged the whole group down. And I enjoyed them a lot better this week without that guy. MJF and Shawn Spears came out to give Wardlow his lashes. MJF starts whipping Wardlow 3-4 times with his belt. Wardlow doesn't sell it. Spears whacks him. Wardlow no-sells that too. So MJF just kicks Wardlow in the balls. And then MJF and Spears just beat down Wardlow. as he's handcuffed as well. Pretty good. It's good stuff. I liked it.
What I thought was good was that, we saw what happened with Cody. That was more like agonizing. You watch that, and this was totally different, but still worked.
Yep. Kyle O'Reilly beat Ray Phoenix with an armbar to advance in the Owen Hart tournament. It was a decent match. O'Reilly and Phoenix. I didn't hate it. It was all right.
Clash of styles, but they made it work. That's what it seemed like.
Yeah. What was your favorite match on Dynamite? Was it... I guess it was Hangman and Takeshita, right? Adam Cole and Jeff Hardy was not bad in the main event, but my favorite match was Hangman and Takeshita.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I also liked Joe and Johnny Elite too.
Yep.
So that was very good as well.
Yeah. Adam Cole beats Jeff Hardy in the finals of the the semifinals of the Owen Hart tournament to advance to the finals. The Young Bucks, O'Reilly, and Fish came out to jump the Hardys after the match. Darby Allin and Sting made the save, and a huge brawl erupted. Somebody threw a chair at Sting, I think. Sting was just beating everybody up. A wild scene with the Stinger.
Sting took everyone out at first.
Yeah, right? Does he have a match at the pay-per-view?
Now, him and Darby are not booked. I thought they would make it actually the Hardys and Darby Allin and Sting against like the Young Bucks and Red Dragon. But thankfully they didn't do that. I thought that would have been too much to do that. And they probably realized the same thing. Like when you have a 5-on-5, you don't need an 8-man as well.
But instead we do the Bucks against the Hardys, and I feel like they haven't really given this time to build on TV. They've been building it on being the Elite. Weeks of promos between the Hardys and the Bucks on being the Elite that I wish they would show in some sort of video package on TV to help bring this story along. If you follow being the Elite, like, this match makes sense, but if you don't, it kind of comes out of nowhere.
Well, I feel like ever since the Hardys came in, that was the match people wanted to see. And they've wrestled each other before. I think the history's already kind of been built in there. It's one of those matches where you can just kind of pull this off. It's kind of like FTR Young Bucks. You can pull it off and people are interested right away.
They do have the history, but it's like it's kind of coming out of nowhere. Like it's next weekend, you know? Right. And I feel like they just announced it tonight and they haven't really built it, considering how big of a match it is, Hardys versus the Young Bucks. I know it's happened before in Ring of Honor, but like this is the first time in AEW. It's a big deal. I don't feel like they've given it a proper build to make it feel like a big deal. But, hey.
Well, you also, like, remember, too, it's not for the tag team titles. It's not one of the main events on this card. More than likely, there's a very good chance it's opening match. So I maybe can understand why they haven't really put a lot of build into this, because it's not going to be that main event match. It's going to be the opening match, which is still solid, but it's not going to be what you think, probably. It won't be 30 minutes, probably 20 minutes.
Low point of Dynamite must be that Serena Deeb promo. She's mad at Tony Schiavone. She's mad at Dustin Rhodes for some reason because they picked Thunder Rosa in some sort of video package that they aired last week, I guess. If they would have just replayed that video package, this segment would have made a little bit more sense. Because I was confused. Why is Serena so mad at Tony Schiavone? And why, if she has a match with Thunder Rosa, is she in the ring calling out Dustin Rhodes? And why did he come out immediately like he knew she was going to call him out? This sucked.
Well, we've seen now why Serena doesn't cut promos. And I've said it before, like, they should have had Serena with Vicky. So that way she could cut the promos for her. Because, like, she's a very good wrestler, one of the best women wrestlers they have.
Yep.
But promo-wise, she's probably one of the worst ones to cut promos. So they need to work on that and not ever do that ever again. Just do tape promos. That's the best way to do it. I honestly didn't think this was the worst part, because at least this helped sell the match. To me, that Britt Baker Maki Ito match, that was awful. I hated that match.
Yeah. Maki Ito was the Joker in the other side of that tournament. It was just weird. Like, Serena Deeb slaps Dustin Rhodes. Thunder Rosa jumps in the ring to try to attack Serena. Dustin Rhodes grabs her immediately and stops Thunder from attacking Serena. Let her go. Why won't you let her go? Yeah, Maki Ito. I'm not a huge fan. At first I was like, oh, this is kind of a fun little gimmick. And then I saw it a couple more times. I was like, all right, not much here. Not much on this. Britt Baker will be wrestling Toni Storm in a semifinal. And Ruby Soho against Chris Statlander in the other one. Both on Dynamite. Winners facing each other at the pay-per-view. Britt versus Stat? What do you think? Who's winning?
Well, if it was me booking this, like, they should have had it where Britt faces Tony in the finals.
Yep.
Because you've been building, that's the match that's been building up the most out of all these matches. So they got the orders wrong with this.
Yeah.
But you would think because Statlander just came back, yeah, she's got to make the finals. However, there's history built in with Britt and Ruby. So that would make sense too, no? It's tough. This one, I wasn't sure how they would go with this.
I think you go Britt getting the win over Tony. Statlander getting the win over Ruby. And then you put Statlander over at the pay-per-view. And have her win the Owen Hart tournament with a win over Britt Baker on pay-per-view. And you push Statlander going forward because she's good enough in the ring. She's an AEW original. She's got a fan base. I think there's potential in pushing Chris Statlander a little bit here. I think you could do something with Chris Statlander. And a win over Britt Baker would cement her as a legit threat for whoever. Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb. Mm-hmm. If Serena wins, which probably not. I'm thinking maybe Jade Cargill, though, for Statlander. Yeah, has she had the match with Jade yet?
No, but she beat Red Velvet, right? On Rampage tonight. So
there you go. Maybe for Jade. Maybe she wins the tournament and she becomes a threat for Jade and maybe beats Jade. Jade's got to lose at some point.
Yep.
It won't be to Anna Jay at the pay-per-view, I'll tell you that much. Definitely but it could be to Chris Statlander in like a couple of months. I could see that. So I think Statlander is going to be my pick to win this Owen Hart tournament on the women's side. And on the men's side, I think it's going to be Adam Cole the baby.
Yeah, Adam Cole makes a lot of sense. The women is tough. I mean, really, all four of them, you could see them all win, really, if you think about it. But I feel you got to put Britt in the finals just because of the name value. I think that's why they didn't want this to be the finals, because they probably don't have Britt winning. So,
yeah. Unless they
we'll wait and
just
see.
Put Britt and her man there, Adam Cole, over. They both win the Owen Hart tournaments. You know, they could do that.
Yeah, it's tough with this. It really could go any of the four ways for the women, I feel.
Yeah, but the men seems like it's just Adam Cole, right? You don't feel like Samoa Joe's going to win? Why is that?
Well, because Joe, because he had issues, right? Like with Jay Lethal. Like, people were surprised he got this far, I think.
Right. Satnam Singh. Never forget about that guy.
Right.
Satnam. Yeah. All right, well, next week we will be previewing AEW's Double or Nothing show here on Wrestling Uncensored, and I am hoping to be on Wednesday night after Dynamite. That will be the next show here on the Ringside Report Network. Wednesday after Dynamite for a Dynamite recap. Dynamite in Las Vegas. AEW doing all their shows from Vegas next week. Dynamite, Rampage, and of course, Double or Nothing next Sunday not a Saturday pay-per-view for AEW. Going to be on a Sunday the 29th of May. Next Sunday will be AEW's Double or Nothing at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. That's the big one. That's where the UFC does their pay-per-views. Huh?
A lot of Vegas pay-per-views coming up.
Well, WWE's got one in July, right? Money in the Bank.
Right. Yeah.
AEW's got Double or Nothing here. UFC's next pay-per-view is in Singapore. So.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah. But UFC and WWE for Money in the Bank, they're running Vegas the same night, which is ridiculous. Well, roughly the same time. I mean, the WWE pay-per-view starts at what, 8 and goes till 11, 12? It's Money in the Bank at Allegiant Stadium, which is a football stadium, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, say WWE starts the show at 8. You really think they're going to do a stadium show that's only 3 hours? It's probably going to be 4, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Possibly.
You know what I'm saying? So, say they run 8 till midnight. UFC prelims, start at 6, whatever. But the pay-per-view, that's 10 till 1. So, between 10 and midnight, they're going to be running head-to-head. And if you're in Vegas, I mean, forget about going to both events. That's not happening. It's not happening. And if you're a fan of either show, I mean, you're going to have to choose. You're going to have to choose. I'm not going to choose. I'm going to watch both at the same time. And we'll probably wind up doing, for the first time ever, like a combined show where it's a UFC pay-per-view watch-along and also a Money in the Bank post-show.
Wow.
So you'll be on.
It's going to be something.
I'll be on. Fred will be on and AJ will be on. We'll all be on at the same time talking wrestling and MMA and all sorts of shit, I think. That's my plan right now because I don't know what else to do. Because it's not like we're not going to cover Money in the Bank. It's a huge pay-per-view. It's at a football stadium. But it's also not like we're not going to cover UFC 276 because that's a massive, at the T-Mobile Arena, like still big arena pay-per-view. Right. Israel Adesanya defending the middleweight title against Jared Cannonier. Alexander Volkanovski defending the featherweight title against Max Holloway in the trilogy. 2 title fights for the UFC on July 2nd at UFC 276. 2 title fights. And WWE's doing 2 Money in the Bank ladder matches the same night in Las Vegas at the same time. And we'll be covering it all for you here on the Ringside Report Network. All of it. It's going to be crazy. July 2nd. I have no idea why the WWE and the UFC decided to run against each other in Vegas on the same night. It's crazy. They've never done this before, ever. We've had WWE pay-per-views the same night as like a UFC fight night, but that's just a TV show. That's not title fights. That's not pay-per-view. That's not a big deal. WWE going up against a fight night is like whatever. Who cares? WWE going up against a UFC pay-per-view in Vegas? And it's not like, oh, it's just some UFC pay-per-view. It's not a big deal. It's International Fight Week. It's 4th of July weekend. That's the biggest pay-per-view of the year traditionally for the UFC. It's one of the biggest weeks. They have the Hall of Fame ceremony. They have a big expo with all the fighters and autographs and everything. They call it International Fight Week. They have multiple fight events on that week. They have a big pay-per-view, 2 title fights. Like, it's a big deal for the UFC. And WWE's saying, yeah, that's cool. We're going to go into your hometown. We're going to do a stadium while you're doing an arena. And we're going to do the show at the same time in your city on International Fight Week. It's a bold move. It's a bold move. I mean, they can't claim ignorance and be like, whoa, we didn't know. You knew full well. And you didn't care. Like jumping right into the UFC's territory. And there's AJ on the chat. It's a huge week for the UFC International Fight Week. It's massive. It's a big deal. It will be like the UFC coming in on WrestleMania weekend to whatever city the WWE's in and doing a pay-per-view the same night as WrestleMania. You know, like WrestleMania was in what, Dallas, Texas this year?
Yeah.
Imagine if the UFC did a pay-per-view on this Saturday night in Dallas, Texas. You know?
Yeah.
Not only that, they do a pay-per-view in a bigger building on the same night in Dallas, Texas. You know? And that's basically what the WWE is doing. They're like, yeah, International Fight Week, big show for the UFC, 2 title fights, T-Mobile Arena, big deal. We're going to the football stadium. We're doing Money in the Bank on the same night at the same time. Deal with it. It's an interesting move by the WWE. And, you know, they've had a pretty good relationship with the UFC. This could signal a break. A break in the relationship. A break in the friendliness between the two companies.
Well, just to add to the possible chaos, I was just looking up the start time. Apparently, SummerSlam is supposed to start at 7.
Money in the Bank.
Is it Money in the Bank's going to start at 7?
No, we're talking. I don't know why you're asking about SummerSlam.
Oh, about SummerSlam. Sorry, yeah. But if that's the case, then wouldn't that all start at 7? Or
Money in the Bank?
Start at 7.
Money in the Bank?
Yeah.
If it starts at 7, it's a little bit easier for the UFC. Like, if they could start at 7 and be done at 10, like, oh, sure.
Because if one stadium show starts at 7, why can't the other one, you know?
Yeah. But do they start at 7 and end at 10? Or do they end at 11?
Ooh, I think it would end at 11 probably.
Well, then you're still jumping into the UFC's time here.
But it won't be as bad, though. Because, I mean, you jump into their time in their main event slot, that's a lot rougher, especially for you.
If you're a viewer, though, if you're a viewer and you're a fan of both, right, and you have the option on a Saturday night, you're already paying for the WWE Network, so you're going to get this show for free no matter what. Are you going to pay an extra $60 to watch the UFC pay-per-view that night? When you're probably going to wind up missing the first hour if you want to watch Money in the Bank? Like, you're taking eyeballs away. You're taking eyeballs away. It's bad, Johnny. That's what AJ says. AJ says it's bad.
It's bad, yeah.
I agree with AJ. I think it is bad. I think it is bad. Did you see Dana White said some stuff about Vince? Dana White was on a podcast recently, and he talked about Vince. Did you see that?
Just that, like, when they had when COVID outbreak happened, like, originally, like, they had the meeting with Donald Trump, and, like, I guess Dana didn't stand up with Vince, whatever.
It was like all the heads of all the sports leagues were talking to the Trump, who was the president at the time, to say what their plan was during COVID. And Vince was talking and saying his plan, and Dana didn't say anything on the call, right? And then after the call, Vince was like really mad and like sending very aggressive, mean texts, just basically shitting all over Dana White, ripping him a new one, really giving it to him. Which I think is great.
Why?
I think is great.
Surprised.
But Dana talked about, Dana talks about Vince with a lot of reverence, and, he's like, oh, Vince was, giving me the business. And, Dana takes it in a good-natured way. But Vince might be legit pissed and wants revenge, You never know with Vince. I thought that was great, though, Vince is mad at how Dana White didn't kind of back him up, and he's, texting him after the meeting with the president, you should have backed me up, pal. What's your problem, Dana? You got to stand up for yourself. I love that Vince, has that kind of, that's who he is. He can, text Dana White and just tell him to go fuck himself, and Dana's just like, oh, shit, what am I going to do? That's great. I love that story about Vince. Classic Vince story. Just classic.
But the thing with Vince is like you don't know if like that's in character or not. You know, like because when you see that character on television, it's like, oh, he's just
Well, it's
playing
not
it up. You
character.
know?
You think it's character when he's texting Dana White? It's not character. That's a real guy. That's not Mr. McMahon. That's Vince McMahon. That's why the character's so good, because he's basically the same guy. Yeah. Well, Money in the Bank will be real interesting. UFC 276 and Money in the Bank on the same night, July the 2nd in Las Vegas. And AEW... Huh?
It does say Money in the Bank at 8, actually. So,
oh, that's bad. That's bad, man.
Yeah.
That's bad. I'll be watching both, and we're always here for you, for all the wrestling and all the MMA. We got picks for tomorrow night's UFC card right here on the Ringside Report Network. If you didn't see Ringside Report MMA this week, go check it out right now. Don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you get the notifications every time we are on. Once you subscribe, click that bell, and you get the notifications to know when we are on here for you on the Ringside Report Network, talking professional wrestling and mixed martial arts. I'll be back here on Wednesday after Dynamite to recap Dynamite. The post-Dynamite show is back, baby, and the post-Raw show may be back real soon, too, so get ready. Post-Dynamite show coming back on Wednesday night. Then I'll be back here Thursday night for Ringside Report MMA with Freddie and AJ, where we will preview no events because the UFC doesn't have a show next weekend, the only weekend in all of May that they don't have a show. But they have a show this weekend, and so we'll be back here Wednesday after Dynamite, Thursday at 8 p.m. for Ringside Report MMA. Next Friday after SmackDown, Johnny and I will be previewing AEW Double or Nothing and talking all things WWE. And then on Sunday after AEW Double or Nothing, Johnny and I and my brother, we will all be back here for the AEW Double or Nothing post-show roundtable here on the Ringside Report Network. It is big. It is a big week coming up next week on the network, and we are excited to bring it to you in full effect. Big thanks to Harold Schneider. You are the Super Chat leader of the night. Thank you, Harold. Thank you for being a member for 13 straight months. We appreciate our long-time members. I love when you guys stick around with us. It shows me that you are real supporters. You are diehards, and I love you for it. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Harold. Thank you to Anthony McDonough, Franco316, members of the team as well. Join.ringsidereport.net. Join.ringsidereport.net is what you got to do. Before we go, Johnny North, when's your next match? When can people see you in the ring?
Well, me personally, it's going to be Ormstown Fair, June 9th. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Finally get to be back in the ring.
Oh, a fair.
I know there's the Latino.
I love a fair.
Yeah, fair. Fair is fun. It's been a long time since I've wrestled on a fair show.
That's fun for the whole family. A fair, June the 9th, you say?
Yeah.
Sounds like an afternoon show.
Actually 8 p.m.
Ah, well, forget about it. I mean, it's too close to bedtime for the kids, John. It's too close to bedtime for the children, you know?
You'll be doing Ringside Report at the same time.
June 11th? That's a...
June 9th.
Oh, it's a Thursday night you're wrestling?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, yeah. Wow. Okay. Okay. What about El Contador? Is he wrestling anytime soon?
I haven't talked to him lately, but I think they're going to be wrestling later in a couple hours. Him and Giancarlo, the Latino Connection Incorporated. I think they're in Coto de Lac in a couple hours. Might want to check promotionsncw.com for details on that one.
When you say a couple hours, you mean Saturday at 7:30 p.m.?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Because it's like, you know, Friday night at like 12:19 right now. So you're a couple hours means like several hours, right?
Yeah, several.
15-ish, yeah. Okay.
It's coming up. It's going to be 7:30 pretty soon.
Okay, so El Contador, who may or may not look like Johnny, who Johnny may or may not know, will be wrestling in Coto de Lac Saturday night. This Saturday night. And then Johnny will be wrestling on June the 9th. So that's exciting stuff. Johnny, you got big matches coming up, and I've got shows and such. Okay? Okay. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We appreciate you. This has been a super extended edition of Wrestling Uncensored. We had a lot of wrestling to talk about. We thank you for joining us, and we will see you again next week. I'll be back here after Dynamite in Las Vegas on Wednesday here on the Ringside Report Network.
Please join in and give your support to Ringside Report Network. We've been providing expert coverage and commentary on both pro wrestling and MMA for over 15 years. Go to ringsidereport.net/support to find out more ways to support the channel.